Hi, welcome everybody to another episode. Today I'm with Virginia Mallo, who is a journalist from beautiful Argentina, from Buenos Aires, and we're gonna talk everything about communication coaching and how you can improve these skills with her. So, hi Virginia, I'm very happy to
Hi.
meet you.
Hi, Anna. Thank you very much for inviting me to
For
talk with you.
For sure. So the first thing, I'm very, very curious because you also have a very interesting professional story coming from journalism, and now you're also helping your clients as a communication coach in Argentina. So I want to know a little bit tell us about your story and your evolution and what, this combination of psychology and communication, very, very curious about it.
Okay, well, it's a long story because I'm very old. It started when I turned out like 2019, and I was very fond of the arts. So I wanted to tell stories. And in those years, I was a teenager, so I wanted to tell stories like with my body. So I wanted to be an actress. So I started to apply to great schools of acting here in Argentina. And I started there to experience how you communicate with your body. Like it's the first thing that enters a room, a space. Mm-hmm. So I found myself that I was very like self-preoccupied for little things that weren't important, like how is my hair, how I'm talking too fast, and things about if I was the right character for that thing, that play. But I did it anyways because I'm a person that even if I'm scared, I jump right into it. And my teacher was and is a very famous actress here in Argentina, and she gave me wings to take it slowly, like step by step. In those years, as I was a teenager, I was self-preoccupied how I was going to earn my life. Mm-hmm. If I went on the arts and there are not a lot of jobs for people that are not the greatest actors. That was my case. So I thought, what I'm going to do. So I was curious about the things that were around my house. My father, he's a lawyer, so I started to study the laws because I was a person in those years who wanted to make things the right way. I want to do like justice in my own hands, even. I was, we'll talk about later, but about things that do in my practice, but I am like the 8 of the Enneagram. So I'm very intense. So I tried to be a lawyer, but I couldn't find myself in that place, in the real life, like a job. Like I was marrying someone I was half in love, mm-hmm. so to speak. So then my grandfather, a greatest man in my life, told me, you like to write, you like to talk. Why don't you apply to journalism? It makes sense for you. It comes in a lot of ways. So I started like at the age of 23, 24, I can't remember right now, to study journalism. So I started to focus on the how to type, how to write, how to communicate in front of a camera. Very soon my teachers told me, "You are a great boss." So you don't have to be especially on camera. You have to coordinate everything for the anchors to be on set in time accordingly. So I started like it's like an evolutionary thing that you start to take tools in your mind, in your heart, and you start to practicing. Like when you are learning how to ride a bike.
Yes.
No, it's very lowly. So I started like that. From the age of 20 to the age of 30, I went from trying to be an actress to tell stories, to try to be a lawyer.
Yes.
And then finally I graduate for being a journalist and tell stories in different perspectives: radio, writing, and sometimes on camera, not all the time.
Okay. So it's like really practicing communication in all different ways.
Yes.
Yes, because
in all different angles.
Different angles, because it's true that in law, like if you go to law, becoming a lawyer, there is a lot of communication skills, but it's very different because maybe the creativity is there, but it goes in a different kind of way. So it's kind of being more in tune with what is not more comes more natural for you, right?
Yes. It's not so creative. Sorry, lawyers. Sorry, Dad. Yes.
Yes. And I wanna go into, as you work as a journalist and you're more now in a way evolving into something that has a lot of psychology, working with your clients, the way probably of how we communicate and the perception of that maybe has changed since you were studying journalism at school from now, right? So I'm very interested in what you have learned about psychology and communication, and maybe what you learned at school in journalism school, and what you know now working with your clients.
Well, first of all, this is not very maybe a great thing to say for young people, but in school you learn things that for me are tools. Maybe you don't necessarily need to go to school. Maybe nowadays you can prepare yourself for certain professions on your own. Of course, if you want to be a doctor, you need to go to school, please. If not, you're going to be a disaster. But for things like being a writer, there are great schools, and I think it's necessary, but they are tools. So in those days, I was learning how to be prepared for how to improvise, how to be all the time ready for a news to fall off when you are crossing the street, when you go to interview a politic or a member of a syndicate or things like that. In those days, like the 90s, or maybe even in the end of the 80s, 90s, you were like your cell phone was something new, and you needed to be all the time with your cell phone that were very limited because there were no great camera, but you have a mic there, so you could go on the streets and do reporting if there was a crash. We didn't study anything about the mind or the psychology, not even the emotions.
Wow.
Emotions was like a blind spot. Like when you're driving, it's I don't know, it's amazing, and it's very interesting and challenging and thrilling how things got too fast to to evolving for a new mindset, for a new kind of consciousness for in the world and for journalism and consulting very, very fast. Even in those days, I think like Tony Robbins was the greatest global coach known for everyone. But you didn't think as him like a communicator, or but because he went to no school, so he was coaching with his own method, and there was no way to emulate or imitate him because he's like a lot. But nowadays, I think when I started in like in 2015, I started like coaching and emotions. It's like opening the door of Narnia. No, it's like it's stepping in a new world and very profound. Because if you don't connect those dots, like of the being, the emotions, the mind, and how you communicate, it's no way to do things right in anything. I think both your private life as your life as a professional in anything you do, even if you are a lawyer, if you are an accountant, a teacher. You need the three things, put it in the right proportion. Like I think I started this because I thought that there was a very deep lack for me. So you studied what you need to learn.
Yes.
So I was very conscious that I was not doing it right. And that's it. It's like a big bang for my man, and also for me as a person even. Exactly. So I'm lacking this, and I'm trying to work. How can I do it?
Yeah,
it's like do sports and you are like smoking. I was like smoking and teaching. No, that's what's a very sad thing to realize, but in a good way. Sad, but well, you yeah, shocking is the thing.
Yes, it's so crazy because I resonate a lot with that, because for me it was very similar studying communication. Like for me, it was here in what I study is not really journalism per se, but it is more communication, audiovisual communication. So you study in TV and radio, all of those things. And I did a lot of journalism too. But what I remember studying in academia was there was not any class on emotional intelligence. But I think it's because here in Spain, it started like a decade ago that the conversation started. And I think it's evolving and it's growing. And I love the fact that it is, but it's very similar of what you tell. Like also for me, I think we teach sometimes what we need ourselves, right? And for me, communication is the foundation of all of our relationships are building good communication.
Yes.
So for me was, okay, I have studied to, how to communicate and talk to camera and all of these things. But I also noticed for myself, there were so many lacks in how I was communicating with others, and the self-awareness of that helped me a lot. And then helping people with English in Spain, everything was focused on the language and not on what people actually needed. That was more the emotions, the imposter syndrome, the shyness. So I want to ask you also about that with your clients, and what do you think are the main blocks, the main things people struggle with? Like, for example, for you, probably with your consultancy, you help people with public speaking more, no? Because you talk about Tony Robbins, also coaching. That's also
Yes.
something I'm curious, because I think Argentina and Spain, we have a lot of things in common. But I think in Spain, I probably is starting, but there is not a lot of connection culturally with America, like that people know a lot. They know about some people, but coaching, people know about it, but I think there are a lot of misconceptions. So I want to ask you about these two things, like about like the things that you work with your clients and the main fears they have with public speaking, and how do you see coaching in your country, and how is it going, like evolving more or less?
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I teach people how to think.
Yeah,
First of all,
exactly.
like think, think first before you speak, because that's the main challenge. Think before you speak. People, you have, this is like the highlight of my consulting, because people always think very fast. We have,
Yes.
the science of the mind is that you have a lot of thoughts per second and per minute. There are a lot. So you need to calm those
And
thoughts a bit. So that's why there are so many of us that sometimes we start with like a meditation,
yeah.
because we enter the space of the mind with a curious question: how are you today? How are you feeling? Uh, Something to take the steps in a slow way, because people arrive very stressed out because of the things that are going on their life, on their job. So they need this space to rethink themselves from who they are, what they want to accomplish, and what are the main obstacles for getting those things. So fear is one, always, because we fear always the unknown, because the unknown, you are not kind of touching that. You fear the things that went wrong in the past,
Okay, so
and you
it's like
are
connected
so
to the past.
afraid to repeat.
Yes.
So afraid to repeat. So the thing is, we start asking powerful questions, as you know, in the sessions with the coach, so that we both can look at the things like in a perspective, uh, uh, with a certain distance.
Yes.
So the fear is here, and you are here, and you don't fear anything really,
Yes.
because you're like looking at that.
Yes.
So I teach how to think
Okay.
and how to speak, like in a second period of the sessions, maybe, because the first four sessions are like um, for the people looking at themselves in a different perspective. Maybe you think you are grumpy, and maybe I ask you things and you're not grumpy. You
Exactly.
thought you
Language.
were. So yes, so the four first sessions are like to rethink about who you are now, because maybe you were in the past, but we coaches and in communications, we work from the present moment to the things we want to accomplish in a short period of time.
Yes.
So then we step and ask how you speak to yourself is the mirror of how you speak to others. So if you speak in a wrong way to your person, like I'm not capable, I'm not enough, it's for sure, for certain, that you're going to fail because you don't believe in yourself. And the words are the milestones. I'm like a private investigator. I'm like looking for those words, and that's the thing that connects with psychology, and that I'm very careful not to try to step in those Freud things, like
Yes.
how do you feel about your mom?
Yeah.
What's your father like? Because that's the past,
Yes.
and that's the psychology field,
Yes.
the past. And I try to listen because people talk about the past all the time.
Yes.
But I try to take like a simple note for that belief. It came out of not nowhere. So it came about mom and dad for sure, or the
Anytime.
caregivers.
Anytime. Yeah.
Always mom
Yes.
and dad or the caregivers, but it's not the. I'm not going to step there.
Exactly. It's like it's similar in my case, like you use therapy in a way or psychology, but for a very concrete purpose that has to do with the communication struggles of that person. Like for me, I learned about psychology and therapy a lot because it came in my sessions of communication. And in the case, for example, with English in Spain, there is huge shame with it, but it comes out of
Ah,
the education
yes.
system, So the education system was here in Spain was very founded on perfectionism, grades, comparison. So a lot of people have
Ah,
blogs, but they come from like those experiences. So you need to address them and go there to reprogram them. So it's
yeah.
just do a little therapy there, but it's because for me, it's like I need to go to the root because if we don't address the root, you're always gonna feel like the self-sabotage. So yes,
Yes.
it is
Yes.
yes,
That's it.
exactly. But
Yeah,
it's like
we all have
yeah,
that voice
yeah,
that
totally.
it's all the time like self-sabotaging, but also because of what you say. Here in Argentina, it's not, I think it's not like in Spain. We
Yeah.
don't shame people for trying. It's not something
And
that
it's great. I love
I
that. I love that.
yes. I love my country. I love Spain.
I love my country too,
Uh,
but this aspect
no,
is
yeah,
important to bring light because then a lot of people think it's their fault or they blame themselves, and it's not. I mean,
of course.
things happen and they happen. Like we have to see them. But yeah, I mean,
Yes, yes, and I think I was lucky in that way because I went to schools who had English as a second language.
yeah.
So I don't know, I know how to pray Our Father,
Yes,
or the Ave Maria. I know it by heart because I learned it so when I was so little. And I don't know, my headmistress was like from India, so her accent was very strong,
yeah,
and there was no shame because Mother Teresa also was from India. So it's like here in Argentina we are so lucky about that. I have to say that. But I know that we uh, all adults have those uh, things about our childhood that are shame and guilt, and that those things that hurt us. Sometimes that child is with us all the time,
yeah,
uh, playing or scared or feeling like you can abandon them, and those things come in the session sometimes
exactly.
when people connect really with us
Yes,
because they are so strong. So the five hertz of the inner child are are very. I have, for instance, the abandonment thing, and sometimes I struck myself like I feel this way because of that went a long time ago, and you have to be self-aware all the time.
You just brought up a
All the
topic
time.
that I find I work a lot with this. I think it's fascinating and key in communication and creativity too. That is the inner child. So for those people
The inner
listening to
child.
us, maybe they know what is the thing of inner child, what they are talking about. So I would like you to, if you can explain us a little bit for somebody that has no idea on psychology or on these things, what is the inner child and these 5 hertz of the inner child? I would love to know more about that. If you can explain us.
Okay. Okay, I'm not a great teacher, and I work a lot on my inner child. But the inner child is basically when you grow up,
Yes.
you carry with yourself something that maybe could traumatize you when you were little, something like shame, because maybe a teacher of yours told you that you weren't good enough in math or in English,
English, they are
and that uh, grow up with you like you are ashamed of that,
yes.
and now you grow up as an adult and you carry that in some aspect that are going to trigger you.
So when this happens
It,
or the trigger happens, I don't know it's the inner child. I just think it's my
you
fault.
don't know.
Exactly, I don't know. So I keep living, I keep going, and okay, public speaking is not for me. I'm not good at this. What's the point on even trying? Because I think I'm not good at it. But really, there is something in my inner child that I can work on that, and then it can change. That's what you're saying,
Of
more.
course. Yes, yes, yes. So I don't work a lot with my clients on the inner child because I'm focusing more of the communication, rethinking about yourself,
Yes.
checking out your belief system. But if I notice that someone is struggling with shame or guilt
Mhm.
or abandonment, I try to rearrange that
Oh, that's so
for
beautiful.
the client. Maybe I don't even talk about that. Maybe
Exactly.
I do something like a role playing, or maybe like I don't all the time have the conversation in the session. Sometimes I um, ask people to step into their body and do something
Okay, so
like
taking them to the body.
yes, because I created a method that includes a lot of
The
the
body.
work of the
I
body,
think in
more
communication,
than because people tell stories about all the time
yes.
who am I, who and that's a story. That's the story you created for yourself, for your ego, but that's not really 100% true. So for the people to see that, I need to step out of the story. So I take them out of their minds to look at the body and what's going on.
Yeah.
For instance,
Mhm.
if you have to speak and your throat is like killing you, here is an emotion that it's need to 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 address.
Mhm.
And so I have to do like a little bit of an exercise to make the throat comfortable, show the people that you are in a safe place. So maybe I have to make an anchor here to take the, and it's very slowly, and it's not in one session. And for public speaking, here
It's
is
so, so powerful and effective.
yes, you connect the mind and your heart through the throat, and here is your voice.
Yes.
So if you want to, your voice, I'm of course exaggerating now, but if you want to go through
Project your
100
voice.
people,
Yes, project the voice.
yes, you have to be very with the air. I'm very comfortable. You
Yeah.
cannot go struggling because it's going to close
Yeah.
and you have to open. And
Yeah, it's
here is
the
the
posture,
connection.
yes, of the body and
And
everything.
here is the emotion
Mm-hmm.
that is blocking you. If that happens when you have to do a public speaking.
Yeah.
Here is something you need to work out, not here in the mind.
So you
It's
need to
not like,
connect to how it feels in your body in the throat and how,
for instance,
yeah, like put
yes,
the like focus more on the emotions that you're actually feeling in the present than all the narrative of the mind that gives us all these explanations. And it's not about how
of
is
course,
your body. And yeah,
yes,
communication is all about the body. That's for me the second thing that I realized that it's so interesting about this specific skill, that you're always doing it in the present and your body is always, there is a language in the body that also communicates a lot. And sometimes you don't even
yes.
be aware of how your body is communicating with.
Maybe you're like that.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
are communicating
Exactly.
something.
And with your face and your expressions.
Yes, yes. So we are beings, or we are social beings. So if you don't communicate right, basically you die.
Yes,
If a baby doesn't cry, the baby dies. And
exactly.
so to think and communicate in the right way is a very strong skill you need to address, because maybe you are great in many things in your professional field, but if you don't know how to connect, you don't have anything. For
Yeah.
me,
This is
you don't
actually
have anything.
Yeah, this is actually something that I also wanted to ask you, because I find it on myself. I think many people don't know that communication skills are something they can work on, and they think, oh, but I just speak, or is they don't see the psychological dimension of it and how you can improve it and how that has an impact on your life, professionally and personally. So, for example, in job interviews, I think it's very clear. So I don't know if you have worked with people in the job interview scenario, like I've done, and like you can see how actually somebody can earn a job because of the communication skills. Is
Well,
so
that's
common.
very interesting.
Yes.
This is key because there are I sometimes follow on YouTube um, uh, a coach about job interviews. She's a French coach, so I'm not going to mention now because you have to speak French. But she always talk about jobs interviews. If you have to tell a story of who you are, you have to tell a story and know how to sell yourself, but in a good way, because you have to address your skill, your highlights, but you have to make a story, because for the people in the companies, they are used to talk a lot of all the time. It's all the thing, like the same speech. Tell me about the best thing you succeeded on your last job. Tell me, it's the same questions all the time. So you can earn a job simply by putting a great story of who you are. Who you are is the main key, because last week I was listening to someone very wise
Yeah.
who talked about a great French company called Michelin that made news. It's called. Now I'm thinking in French, and I don't. But
That's
tires,
okay.
and the greatest engineer of that company was someone who hadn't at that time an engineer degree, but the main human resources of that time noticed that there was a young kid who was all the time disrupting how to do things. And later on the story of Michelin, he was the most famous top people in that company. I can't remember now the name, but it was because someone saw something different. So you are different from me. So we are not in a competition for a job. We are in a certain way because there's one job and it's between you and me, for instance. Who is going to get that job? No, the best college degree, the best of you telling who you are and what you can bring new to the table, to that company. And that's the story.
Yes,
the story of who you
is,
the story of how you are different from me.
And your strengths.
It's a story.
Yeah, the ability to communicate,
of course,
your strengths. Yes, what makes you unique in your story. Totally. Yes.
And you have to know how to in a job interview, how to do it in a way that is not like you are selling cars or selling, because it's a sell in a way of a good story,
exactly.
Knowing how to make a pause when you have to be silent, because maybe you talk about something about your father that taught you and now you develop that skill, and that could connect with you and your father or your personal story, and you can be affected by that. But because when you talk about you or a story, you are mirroring emotions also.
Yes. And I think also is the values thing, like that sometimes you feel rejected or something in a job interview, but many times we don't realize, but do I actually want to work in this company? Like to have like a lot of research about your own values and gain clarity about what you really want, that helps when there is a match, because the story you tell is gonna be a match for that company, you know? So the own process of telling your story, you gain a lot of clarity too, in a way.
Yes, if you listen to yourself, you get a lot of clarity. Always.
Yes.
So that's very important in coaching, to realize who you are, and that there are a lot of things that life and the world can offer you, but are there for you? It's a matching. It has to be a synergy.
Yeah, totally. I'm going now a little bit more into in this international communication skill. There are little differences, but there are a lot of things in common with communication coach, like in your mother tongue, no? Like you are coaching people in Spanish, but there are a lot of things in common with international communication. So here, it will be in our second language. So as you are doing it already, this podcast today, you are getting your second language or third language. I don't know. I think it's your second language, right? English.
My second language, yeah. So, French is my third language.
French is your third. That's incredible, So you have English and French. So there are certain aspects of the communication skills that I think it is like doing it in steroids, or the next kind of level, because you are doing it in a language that's not your mother tongue. I think that there are advantages and disadvantages to that. But I want to ask you, in your own personal experience with English, being invited to a podcast that you definitely say yes to, and like there was you were very confident about it. So I want to ask you about your own journey to communicate in your second language, how it's been for you, and what have been like your references, because I'm always talking about references for us of other global speakers or public speakers that inspire you, that you like, that have helped you, because you're doing it incredibly well. So I want
I thank you.
congratulations.
Well, there is a story that came here, crossed my mind right now, because when I had like 17 or 16, I arrived to Paris and I couldn't speak like a phrase in French. I could understand and I could speak like oui or no, merci, 3 or 4 words.
Yes,
And I was
survival.
walking, yes, and I was a teenager and I wanted to ask, I was in a park one day, I just arrived and I was on vacation and I wanted to ask another teenager something, I can't remember what, and they laughed at me like I was speaking like sort of a Spanglish, like a cow, and I was like so furious because I knew that I could speak,
Yes.
and I was not retarded, but I couldn't speak French, and they were mocking at me, and at that time, that's why I'm an age I was telling you. I say something in Spanish like "go to hell"
Yes.
in Spanish, and they knew I was like doing that because they couldn't understand the word, but they could very much
Me.
understand my body, my
Yes.
expression, and I didn't care. If you ask me, I don't work in English all the time. It's not my field at this time of my life to work, but I think that the confidence I have in myself is what you are doing in your practice. So I saw your work and I admire you because we do that for people. If you are confident about yourself, maybe you're not speaking very well. You can speak like a cow. You can speak like an Indian. You can speak like Woody Allen. I don't know.
Yes.
Who cares? Because the main thing is the message you are delivering for the world. And so that's the star. It's not me doing my journalism, my point of view. That's crap. That's the ego. The message I'm delivering is the star.
Yeah.
The star that is coming to the world, like the message, not who is delivering the message. It doesn't matter if it's Jesus Christ, Buddha, or Tony Robbins. We all practicing our values, our skills. We try to communicate it the right way. It's difficult to communicate in the right way because of these very interesting things that are our emotions.
Exactly.
Because we are our emotions at that time. And at that time, I was very angry because they were mocking at me.
And it's
And
very
the
good.
emotion,
Yeah, the emotion. Yeah, it's very good the example you gave, because I think many people, when we talk about a second language, this idea of I am stupid comes so much because you think that you are, and it has nothing to do with intelligence, really. We communicate in Spanish as our mother tongue just because the environment was set for us to do it. And it's like
yeah,
literally you are, you know, giving in yourself permission to try, and like you are living in Paris and I want to communicate in French, you know. So it's the fact of people
yeah,
looking at you, that they are not understanding what you're doing is incredible, because you're not only speaking Spanish, but you're also going into a new language, putting all the willingness to try and to learn and to do the mistakes. That to me speaks volumes about resilience and growth and exploration. And I think you should admire people that are doing that instead of mocking them. So it's never the fault, you know, of the one being mocked. It's, I think, reframing that, you know. So I love this.
I think the key thing you said is give yourself permission to fail. Guys, give yourself permission to fail. It's great to fail. You have to fail. Fail all the time, all the times you needed to improve yourself.
Exactly.
Because life is about experience yourself through the challenges and practicing. We all are apprentices.
Yes, and being accountable. Because I think probably for you as a teenager, studying abroad in Paris, in a country that's very different from yours, in a language that is
I have another story to tell you, Anna, that came right in this moment. Imagine I was like a young Kate Winslet in a film called Heavenly Creatures. That is a film from a very famous Australian director.
The one
and I was
is the one of the Rings. Yes, the same director.
Yes, exactly. And I was in my school, public school, French school, and I was very happy because I went from mathematics that I was not very good at, but it's the universal language. And I went to English class. So the teacher came and started to speak in French. And I was like, this is English class at this time of the day. It's 11 in the morning. I have English and I'm speaking French. And the teacher was like talking to me and I was like answering in English. And I found myself like in that character of Kate Winslet, like talking in English, like in that way that I know more than you know, and you are the teacher. And I was like, and there was like a very strong opinions on how to address the class, and I was the student, so I had no power, but I was like given a life lesson. Hey, we need to think in English to speak in English. It's not vocabulary, something you learn in a book, cat, house.
It's the immersive experience of the language, yes.
And you have to speak and think first in that mindset that it's different from French to English.
Yeah.
From Spanish. It's because we are different, so we think differently.
Exactly. Actually, that is backed up by science that different languages feel different. Like you have different emotions with different. That to me, it's mind blowing. And yes, there is a huge identity aspect to it. So you're not really the same person when you're speaking in one or another language, and that is fascinating. So yes.
And if you speak different language and you think in different ways, you are a better self, because you can experience different perspective in life. It's like your life is richer in some way.
Totally.
When you travel also, you are challenging yourself to experience things different. You don't know the way, the restaurant, you don't know how to take the bus or take the subway. You can't understand the language. Imagine if you go to China or Japan, another kind of culture, you get richer. And the communication there and the skill you have to develop is to mirror your minds and your emotions, and that you can comprehend, like the mathematics. Like the world is a world of emotional beings and social beings.
That's it. It's, I think, the aspect of conscious communication, right? That the mind and the heart, it's in coherence, because I think for a long time, there is a lot of, yeah, we talk, but maybe the disconnection with the heart. So then you don't know how to address if you feel shy, if you feel, you think, oh, it's because I'm not good at this. But there is actually a lot you can work or like transform to become better at this skill. So I want to kind of go more into the end of our conversation because I could talk with you for
Okay.
hours and hours. And
Thank you. Thank you.
I like a lot to ask all of my guests about their references or things that have nurtured you in your journey for improving your communication skills, maybe books or podcasts or things that come to your mind that have helped you in your journey as personal growth. Maybe books that have to do with communication or not, but that have helped you to become better at this skill.
Okay. Well, the last book I read about communication, it's called, and I'm going to say it in Spanish because I don't know if it is being translated yet. It's from a Mexican called Todos hablan, pocos conectan.
Okay.
And that's about that people talk, but they don't know how to connect. And that's very interesting for people who are starting to think about how to tell a story or how to get a job through a story or how to step in a higher place in a job position. Also, during my journey, I take a lot of things about spirituality.
Yeah.
So I like The Power of Now from Eckhart Tolle. He speaks very, very good Spanish, so that's very interesting because
I didn't know that. Eckhart Tolle speaks good Spanish. I didn't know that.
Yes,
Always listen to
yes, because his father lived and died in Barcelona.
I didn't know
So he as a teenager traveled a lot to Spain, and he speaks very well Spanish. And it's interesting because for someone who doesn't understand English in a fluent way, he speaks. You can access his talks in Spanish. I admire a lot of people who can know how to stay in silence, like he does, and he teaches. I follow a lot an American woman called Teal Swan. She is a spiritual teacher also, but it's very interesting how she addresses the psychology views, making like a synergy of how you think about yourself, your emotions, and the psychology behind that. She's very talented. She's a very powerful teacher. For everyone should know or listen to Swam at least once.
But I watched a documentary about her, and it was a little bit strange. Like I know about her and her teachings, and I think what she teaches is really interesting. But there is something like off about her in my case. And when I watched the documentary, seeing how the people working in their company, like it was not but in the inner circle of the company of Tirsuan.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very strange, but at the same time, I think that the YouTube videos or there are things that he talks about. I think the thing that is a little bit strange is when he talks about suicide or because there is a lot of people.
Yes, it's
psychology,
it's very
psychology degree.
Polemic.
It's polemic, yeah, exactly. But I think that what she the teachers.
But I watched her in her early years, and I was like, oh wow, this is kind of different.
It's different.
It's different. Then I like a lot. Well, of course, Daniel Goldman. He just came his latest book called Optimal. I don't think it's available all over the world right now, but yes, in the US, his latest book. I like a lot of John Maxwell. He's a great communicator, and I like his books because they are helpful for people who want to take a method and refresh some ideas.
Yeah, he
I
has a
like
podcast, I think, on communications.
yes,
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 very good.
yes. So there are so many people that inspire me that it's I could write 100 names.
Yeah,
But
exactly. These
I
are the
just
ones
well,
that
here
go.
I like a lot Borja Vilaseca. He's from Barcelona, I think, and Enrique Corbera here in Argentina. They are very well known, and I like a lot about Borja that he's a great journalist, a great communicator. He's full of energy and very practical, and he opens roads. So
Yes. Yeah, I
he's
think
very
in
interesting.
Spain, it's like here in Spain, you talk about spirituality before, about your interest to that. I think in Spain it's a starting, but the conversations are maybe not as, kind of like open or something. I
Yeah.
think that's a cultural difference with Argentina. But like, for example, I was on it to ask you about that. Like, I find that spirituality is like really important part of our lives in a way, but maybe, for many people it's that intersection of science and spirituality, or how can I make sense of this, or what is the evidence of this being real or whatever. But many times it's what you say about Eckhart Tolle, it's more that silence, spirituality is not only about I see ghosts or things like that. There is other things about it. So I wanted to ask
Oh
you
yes.
about what is your perspective of spirituality for you that is maybe different from religion, or as a practice that you have for yourself, and how it helps you in your life.
I think it helps me in my life. It helps me a lot because I'm very intense all the time. Like my ego, my personality is very intense. So I need to like slow down the mind. And I think a lot of people need that too. That space of maybe they are not intense, but they need to calm those thoughts. So I don't judge any beliefs on religion. If someone who is Muslim or from Judaism or from Christianity, I know all the religions, and I think they are very important for people that are believers. But the spirituality is like a synergy from who you are and what's inside of yourself. So I take it like a practice of sometimes when you speak on or to your own self, to like your soul, you can find a lot of resources
Yeah.
or tools
Yeah.
to
Yeah, I
for
also
life.
the word soul, but maybe, for those people that don't resonate with the word soul, like your essence, those things that, since you're little to now are the same, like there are common denominators for yourself, that is your essence, or when you connect with your values. So you don't need to use the word soul. I use it too, but even if
No, yes.
you don't need to believe in anything really, because it's not dogmatic. It's more tools that help you live your life more in tune with your happiness and your joy or whatever. So yeah, I
Yes,
think it's also what you say. It's maybe some creating a spaces in your life where you nurture those things. Maybe it's connection with nature, maybe it's whatever it is for you, but not necessarily, it's not a dogma or a certain
no,
answer, things like that.
no, no. You have to free your mind from dogma.
Yes. Thanks a lot for sharing that, and sharing your curiosity and that spirituality is part of what inspires you and your references, you know? I
Yes,
think,
because I'm a Christian, but I started to know and practice a lot of different mindsets on religion and values. So the values I care about, they are in everywhere,
yes,
in
that many
all
religions
religions.
actually share a lot of things that are similar, though
Yeah,
they're different. Yes. I also
yes,
really like religions and I'm curious about all of them. I think maybe the one that I go a little deeper more into is Buddhism. But then for me, I don't address to any specific religion. Here in Spain, many people in my generation, I was baptized, and Christian or whatever,
yes.
but I don't practice or I don't consider myself religious in any means. But I really love spirituality. I'm very curious. For me, for example, meditation or visualizations that have a lot of scientific background. I use them a lot with people when I coach them in
Yes,
communication.
I think that is very effective.
Yeah, it is. And the good thing is you have science to back it up. So it's like, but I think meditation is really a spiritual practice.
Yes,
So,
it's a spiritual practice.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
more and more.
So, well, we're gonna wrap it up. Thanks a lot, Virginia, for
Okay.
coming. But before, I also want, because people listening to us probably there is somebody that will find it really interesting to work with you. So, if you can share with us your offerings and where people can find you, I will also put it all in the show notes in the description. But if you want to tell us more about where people can find you and your offerings, everything you're up to.
Well, I'm basically on all the social media,
Okay.
like LinkedIn. I have my website called virginiamallo.com.ar, Instagram. So I'm everywhere. If you put my name, you are going to find me for certain. And well, my key practice is to rearrange thoughts in the mind and change your mindset to grow and have more impact. And as a journalist, I try to teach also skills on communication for people, but also for companies. So I do a lot of workshops on companies for all the people that can have a collective growth, not only the managers or
Yeah.
the CEOs that are going to hire me for themselves. That's great, but also for their team.
For the team.
That's very important because the leaders need to lead a good team.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm developing that.
And we all need leadership skills. Like, I mean, you don't need to be necessarily only in a leadership position, but yeah, everybody in the company, it's gonna thrive when you improve your emotional intelligence, your communication skills. You're able to communicate new creative solutions, all of that. So yeah, working in corporate,
Yeah.
it's a great place to help a lot of people with communication coaching. So
Yes, in the same time. So that's great.
So thanks a lot, Virginia. I don't know if there is anything that we haven't touched that you wanna, share or like talk about. But like, thanks a lot for coming and sharing a lot of things that you discussed that I found fascinating. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Anna. I'm very grateful to talk to you. It's very, it feels good to connect with people around the world. We both speak Spanish as our first language, but we challenge people to grow their communication in a second language, in a third language, knowing that what you put in your mind to, you can accomplish. That's the greatest gift I can assure all your listeners, that if you put your mind into something, you're going to make it happen. Don't worry, fail, and you'll always succeed after that.
Wow, thanks a lot. That's the best possible way to finish. So I hope you have a great rest of the day, Virginia, and for everybody listening to us and watching us. I see you for the next episode of Global Speakers. Bye bye.
Bye bye.